How's everyone doing?
We're doing good. I think I muted them all, so none of them want to put themselves off mute. So I'll answer for them. They're doing good, Brad. They're doing good.
Doing good, Brad.
You muted who?
All of the 60 people in here that are
Okay. Nice one.
over each other.
All right, let's fire away.
So we'll just jump into it. Obviously, your time's limited, so we appreciate any time you have with us. We're just going to go over, obviously, it's been a wild year for the kids with COVID going on. Kids sent home from school, so they're not having that social hour and time they usually do at school. No soccer season, no scrimmages, especially in California. It's been very difficult on us in training and everything. So I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions about mentality, training habits through here, and then a bit about the path to professional, all right?
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing we're going to ask you, Brad, is what are some ways you've seen young players continue to train, educate, and motivate themselves throughout this COVID period?
All right, so the training one, that's a separate question. I mean, a little bit of that differs from state to state and what the restrictions have and haven't been. A lot of teams have been able to train together in some states. I'm not a political guy, so I'm not here to start a political conversation, but certain areas that were pro-Trump were doing kind of what they wanted. Certain areas that were pro-Biden were not. I think that's just a fact of life. So the training element really was state to state, area to area. What I would say that those players that were very serious that couldn't train as a team went and searched out individual training plans and tried to do as much as they could on their own. Is that easy? No. Is it perfect? No. Is it better than nothing? Yes. The mentality of it and how you set yourself up for the college or the professional game, it's hard. There's no way it's not ideal, and it's just something that everybody across, not just the United States, this has happened everywhere globally, has had to deal with. There's academies in the United Kingdom that have been shut down for many months, or they would come in for 2 weeks of training and then have to take 2 or 3 weeks off. So everywhere around the globe has had to deal with the trials and tribulations of COVID, and it's not over yet.
So just to touch up on that a little bit, what advice would you give younger players, particularly 10th, 11th grade, that are towards the end of youth soccer, that are kind of missing out on what was a vital season for them and trying to maintain themselves in the recruiting process and continuing to play at the next level? What advice would you give them from a mental standpoint?
Well, there's two ways. One, they're going to have to try, whether it's through themselves or their parents, to try to keep themselves into the eyes and ears of college coaches and professional coaches, USL coaches, MLS coaches, as best as they can. Mentally, what they can do, they can just play, they can train. There's not a lot more that they can do. You're not alone in your frustration, but you're also not being overlooked necessarily because of your ability. It just is coronavirus, and what has happened with a lot of the professional teams, especially in USL Championship, League One and League Two, is they have really tightened up the salaries. They have really tightened up the roster sizes, because all these owners are losing a lot of money. Manchester United, for the first time in decades, has lost money because they don't have their gate receipts on their daily or on their per match basis. And in MLS, the owners collectively have lost well over $1 billion. So, mentally, you have to put yourself into a place where you can do what you can control. What you can control. What is that? You can be fit. That is something that you can control yourself as a player. Sometimes you can't control being good on a ball. Sometimes you can't control being errant on a pass, but you can always control being fit. So even in a time of coronavirus, you can be fit. You might have to do it at home, might have to do it on the streets with no one around you, might have to do it on an open field with no one around you, but you have to find a way to be fit. So when you can play, you're ready.
Very good points there. And as you pointed out, like we've told the kids, it's something everybody's going through and just something we have to deal with. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit into the path to professional. Obviously, you have experience as a player. Now you're helping young players become professional. Today, you're helping people through MultiSports become professional from America and Europe. Can you tell us more about your role as the head of the U.S. market for that?
Yeah, so I opened up we're the sixth largest agency globally. I opened up the US office here in Miami. And, for lack of a better word, I'm a sports agent and I look after players, but we try to target players between the ages of 15 and 22 if possible. Of course, we're going to have a few older and experienced players on the books. And I just try to use my experience as a player and as a head coach with the under-19 and a national team, and assistant coach with the U20 national team, and also as the head coach of New England Revolution, and try to help them have the young players navigate up through the ranks. We do have a philosophy. We try to take young youth national team players so we can have longevity of career with them, and we really want to try to deal with players that truly have a future in the professional game. Getting players trials and tryouts and things of that nature isn't really the hard thing. It's being able to get that the first contract, and most importantly, the second contract, so then the players can make a career of it themselves.
Very good. And with that being said, there's obviously an influx of American talent right now in Europe with Weston McKennie, Christian Pulisic, Gio Reyna. They're starting to pop up. Is this something clubs in Europe are looking more into the American market? Is it kind of a hot topic to be in the youth national team pools, youth national teams? Is this a bigger spot for European teams today?
Well, one of the reasons they're looking in the youth market, well, there's two reasons. One is we do have talent here. The second is that no MLS team owns the players that are in the academy, not unless they give them a homegrown contract. So every player is free of transfer. So the U.S. players are cheap, relatively speaking. I'm not talking about salary. I'm just talking about getting their rights. You only have to pay what's called a solidarity payment. So Weston McKennie, he never signed for FC Dallas. He went to Schalke in Germany on a free transfer. So Schalke, when they sold him for 20 million euros or 19 million euros, that was all profit for FC Schalke. So there in Weston, I coached with the under-19 and under-20 national team. If he was at Tottenham, we would have kept him and put him on a huge contract. He is a talented boy, and and he deserves to be at Juventus. But the reason that he got over to Germany was because there was no transfer fee. His dad, I believe, was in the military, so he spoke some German, and I think he lived some of his life in Germany, so he knew the culture. And it was easy for him to go over. But the German scouts do a very good job coming over to the U.S. to look at those players that they can try to get free of transfer before they're actually owned by MLS clubs.
So due to the fees and being relatively cheap in America, would you say European scouts think it's a bargain to come and actually scout for American players, and it's targeted more because of that?
Without a doubt. And it's also made a lot of the MLS clubs wise up to sign players at a younger age so they can get the transfer fees.
Makes sense. I have two more questions for you, then I'll let some kids ask some if you have some time for it. What are some challenges players face in making the transition to a professional player?
In the United States, it's a culture shock to a lot of the players when they go over to Europe. It is a cutthroat business, a cutthroat industry. Everybody over in Europe, South America, Mexico, it's their daily life. They want to be a professional soccer player. In the United States, there's a lot of other sports, and soccer is down the totem pole a little bit. So I think if a player in the U.S. is the big fish on a local club team, and let's say they're scholarshiped into that club, or they're scoring loads of goals in said league, when they get over to Europe, it's a culture shock when there's 5, 6, 7, 8 players that are just as good, if not better, in the same position. And they have to figure out what's that 0.5% or 0.25% or 0.75% that's going to separate them from the other guys. And I think the biggest thing is getting through that first barrier, because a lot of players will then want to quit. They'll say, well, this is too hard. I'm going to go back home. And in Europe, they literally live by, you can tell a player once, you can tell them twice, but if you have to tell them a third time, they're just not professional standard. And that's it. And it's done. Whereas here, you can tell them once, twice, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, they keep coming back. And there's a little bit of sense of complacency. Over there, it is just hard and cutthroat. And I think that is, and that's starting to change a little bit in MLS, and it's going to trickle down into the club and the youth ranks, and it'll just make soccer better in the United States as a whole. The other thing is the mentality over here. In the U.S., the players don't really wake up to bad headlines, good headlines, being in the media, being in social media all the time by the millions. And it really is a checks and balances system. When you play a game, and if you don't perform well, X amount of millions of people across the globe are going to be commenting on your performance. It gives you that extra bit of urgency to do better. And over here in MLS, they just don't have that yet. It's getting a little bit better. And there's more and more notoriety to the sport as each year goes by. But when we get to that point, then that'll trickle down to the youth levels, and then people will understand it and be better prepared for the professional game.
Yeah, I think a very good point about the differences between Europe and America and the pressure from a player standpoint. Final question before I'll open up the floor to a couple people. A lot of people don't know this, but you were recruited to play multiple sports in college. How has the recruiting process changed since you were growing up for college, and what advice would you give our players that are thriving to go to the next and continue to play the game at the college level?
Well, they can recruit you younger, for one. Two, I think there's just far better platforms to know who the players are. There's a lot better communication. When it was the U.S. Soccer's Developmental Academy, now they have MLS's Developmental Academy, or you have ECNL, or you have Coast Soccer Leagues, or it's just easier to find out where the talent is, where the games are being played, and how to reach out to the kids and the families. When I was growing up, it was basically high school soccer. If you were lucky enough to get into the national program, you could go into the state team, the regional team, and then with the national team, it was only a select few players. We didn't have emails. We didn't have social media. So it was really difficult to recruit. And it was difficult as a player to reach out unless you were writing a typed letter. So things have changed enormously. I mean, just with one email, your parents can reach out to any coach in the country. And that coach, once they see the name, can find video on the player with just one click of a button on a computer. So a lot of things have changed from the archaic days when I was coming through high school.
So you would say there's a lot of different ways for these kids to put themselves in front of college coaches today, yes?
Yeah, without a doubt, compared to when I was growing up, absolutely. It was easy for me in basketball because the system was already in place. It was easy for me in tennis, ice hockey. It was very difficult in soccer. The systems just simply weren't put in place back then.
So Brad, do you have a little bit more time to take some questions from some of the kids?
Sure.
Guys, if you have a question, raise your hand on the Zoom on the side and I will call you. Just one question, please. Grady, go ahead.
Do you think that the fact that people in America, when they go across seas and they sign their first contract when they're under 16, do you think it's an advantage that if they make it to the national team, the team that signed them will get money from the national team?
Well, first, you can't sign, well, you can sign a contract, but you can't be registered to play in another country under the age of 18. So if you sign a contract, it would be a scholastic contract, or you were born in that country, or your parents got a legitimate job in that country. Right now, the FIFA law is that you can't play professionally until you're 18 years of age in another country other than the country of your birth. What I think is happening right now is a lot of the clubs around the world are trying to sign players young and then loan them back to the U.S. clubs. And then on the 18th birthday, then they sign for said club. There's also, you can go in and play with the under 19 team, under 17 team, if you're on a completely 100% amateur contract under a scholastic visa. But that means that when you turn 18, you still have to go through the visa application process, and you're not guaranteed to get it at the age of 18. So I think what happens a lot of times is the scouts come over and they'll see good players and they'll either monitor them or they'll try to see what their family background and heritage is. Or if they're really good, they'll try to sign them and then keep them on loan at their club and then take them when they're 18.
Good question.
But yes, if a top club does sign them, sorry to answer the other part of your question, yes, the national team will take notice to that.
Very good question, Grady. We have another one, Juliet or Steven. I'm not sure which one's asking it, but go for it, and then we'll go to Jerry.
For multi-sports, how long can you go through high school and college till you have to stick with one?
Well, usually, I mean, college, very, very rare would somebody be playing two. In high school, all the way until you graduate. That's my opinion. A lot of people disagree with me on that. But I was case in point that you can do it. And I think so few players become professional athletes. I think it's incredibly important to have a social life in your life. And when you play multiple sports, you meet so many other people that could become your best friends for the longevity of your entire lifetime. And you also get different aspects of life. You travel to different players, you meet different people, or different places, you meet different people. And then on the physical side, you get different movements, different fitness. As I was a goalkeeper, obviously, so ice hockey helped me a lot. Tennis helped me a lot. Basketball helped me a lot with my movements, my core strength, my leg strength, my spring. So I think all through high school, you can play multiple sports. When you're in college, especially if you're on scholarship, you'll only be playing the one sport.
Very good question, Steven. Jerry, go ahead.
Do you think teams like Europe and or teams over there in Spain are more interested in their teams or teams like over here in the US or players?
Their teams. Think about it this way, and don't take it personally. If a club can bring a player up through their own academy and only have to pay them developmental wages, and then they can build them up and either give them a first team contract or they can sell the player, they never have to pay a transfer fee. And that's where the big money comes in. So whenever a team can develop an academy player and bring them through and have them play in the first team and then sell them, it's a perfect scenario for them. So that was one, going back to one of the first questions, is if you're an American, it doesn't matter if you're American, if you're a foreign player and you're young and you're going to another country, you have to be better than everybody because there's a reason that they're bringing you over. And thankfully with some of the American players, they've been free transfers. So they've gone over, so they've been on level playing field as some of the local players. But then in other countries, you have foreign restriction laws and rules within their government So, you know, if you're only allowed 2 to 6 foreign players on a team, depending on what country you're in, you have to then be that much better than the local talent. So, yeah, a club will always look locally or within their own country before going abroad.
Good question, Jerry. Last question we'll take. We only have a few minutes. It's going to go Carson. Go ahead. And then I want to share a clip very quick.
What made you become goalie?
By the way, Brad, this is a young goalkeeper in our club.
I don't know, mental problems. I don't know. I was always good at it. I grew up playing a lot of sports using hand-eye coordination. I found myself in a scenario where I was good at it, and I wanted to get better at it, and I had a work ethic to get better at it. And I guess the best way to put it is I just simply loved playing the position.
Brad, thanks for taking all of the questions. Myself and
Hey, Keon.
Yes, Mark.
Yeah, one question for Brad from me. What is the number 1 or 2 traits that you look for in players that you want to help get to college or pro or even in a club? What are the 1 or 2 main traits that you look for in players?
Well, work ethic is a non-negotiable. So if I see a player working hard, I don't mark it down on my box. But if I see them not working hard, I give a big X across it, because every single player in the world has to work hard. You know, it doesn't. You just can't be good if you don't work hard. Sorry, you know. And if you're one of the lazy ones that walks around the field, you will not be great. And that's how it is. You know, the David Beckhams of this world did not be incredible free kick takers because they left training early every day. They would stay out there for hours and perfect it. You know, I look at athleticism, and because I feel that if somebody is athletic, you can always teach them the right things. And I would obviously look at their technical ability, Mark, but you can teach athletic players technical ability. But I would look at the mental aspect of the player, and not how they react when they do well, is how they react after they make a mistake. So put in perspective. If you're 12 years old and you're playing in a state semifinal and you make a mistake, your players might be upset with you, and a couple of mom and dads might be upset with you, and then you wake up the next day and it's fine. But when you get into the professional game and you make that mistake in an FA Cup semifinal or a World Cup semifinal, the world doesn't get for months. So how are you going to deal with a mistake? Because you have another game in 5 days or 4 days, 3 days, 7 days, and you have to perform again. So I like to look at the players, what happens after they make a mistake. I made them, everybody makes them. And can they deal with it and get on and make sure that one mistake doesn't count them too? Or do they dwell on it? Because if they dwell on it, no matter how fast they are, how strong they are, how much the local coach loves that he scores the 70 goals in his local league, if he dwells on it, when he gets up to the bigger levels, he'll never be able to break through that barrier to become a pro.
Very good answer. You guys hear that? No extra credit for working hard. It's expected. Brad, I'm going to just share. We only have about 4.5 minutes. I'm going to share a clip with us really quick and just get your thoughts on it, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Blackburn versus Manchester United, I think about 2007. You guys go on to win this game. I don't need to tell you, but here's Paul Scholes with the ball.
Oh, did I? Oh, this is the game I.
Yeah, you're here.
Stopped by a tremendous save by Friedel. He made up They really do superbly well, Manchester United, the way they carved open Blackburn. It's not a great strike from Cristiano Ronaldo. Probably deceives Brad Friedel in many respects, but the second save really is outstanding because Wayne Rooney thinks all he's got to do
Tough
is
bobble
get the right
there.
connection.
Amazing recovery. I'm going to play it one more time for us, and then I'll come back to you.
To Giggs. Rooney making a menace of himself. Finish. No scores. To Giggs. Cristiano Ronaldo. Giggs makes a deep run. Ronaldo goes for goal. Friedel spills it. Rooney is stopped by
Unbelievable save, Brad. I'm going to stop the clip because we have about 3 minutes. I just want to get your take on that. Two of the all-time greats in the Premier League. Two quick saves from you, quick reactions. Tell us about that.
Well, you missed one of the other all-time greats, Paul Scholes. What a incredible player he was. I think if you look, the first pass, Paul Scholes, he put it through our midfield and took our midfield 4 and front 2 out of the game. So 6 players are already out of the game, and you have Manchester United tacking 5 against a back 4. What they didn't really show on that clip, the Ronaldo shot was deflected slightly, and took kind of a strange bounce in front of me. And Ronaldo had a really good strike. Obviously, everyone knows how good he is. Where the ball doesn't have a lot of spin on it, and it would fly through the air a little and have a little wobble on it. I made a little bit of a mistake by leaving a bad rebound out, and that's where you see how bright and lively and good the likes of a Wayne Rooney was. And he beat our back 4 to the rebound, and I was just fortunate enough. Back then, I was a little quicker than I am now today, and I was fortunate to get up and be able to save the rebound. But that clip is actually a perfect example of the mentality of what I'm talking about. I make a little bit of a mistake with the rebound, leaving a rebound out like that, but then I rectify the mistake. There's a lot of people that would leave that rebound out and then quit, and then Rooney would just tap it into an open goal. Or my life the next day would have been different had I conceded that goal, because everyone in the entire country, especially because you're playing Manchester United, so you're now talking a global game, would have blamed me for the first goal. If I spilled that rebound, Wayne Rooney taps it in, all around the world, it would have been Brad Friedel mistake.
And that's that pressure you were talking about.
And you have to wake up the next day and get to training and deal with it, knowing that all your teammates are looking at you, knowing that you made a mistake. Everyone around the globe knows you made a mistake, and all eyes are on you for the next game. And if you make a mistake the next game, then the coaches start talking, should we drop them? Yeah. And should we play somebody else? And then if you make that third mistake, you're gone.
Brad, we're about to get cut off, so I want to thank you for your time. I appreciate it. The club appreciates it. Always good to hear from you and get some insight. So I just wanted to thank you before we get cut off. Guys, if you want to unmute yourself, thank Brad. Go for it. I'll probably hear you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Brad.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad.
We'll see you.
Thank you. Thanks, Brad.
Brad, have a good one.
Bye, you too. Bye.